Welcome back for a new box office versus. I thought I'd try a little bit of a different lighting system out in this video. Let me know what you all think. With that said, music of choice today is a metal cover of Roxas theme from, of course, KH2. So, with that said, next time I'll probably go back to normal line, just trying this out with my new camera for my new phone because my old one's just gone way too out of date. So with that said, this is going to be a versus battle of which film from the late 90s about asteroids colliding with the Earth, which was better. We look first at box office, domestic, international. We look at basic info, the exact year, the length, the rating, budget, as well as Rotten Tomatoes, both audience score, critic score, Metacritic same, and IMDb, and then I give my own personal opinion at the end. So with that said, and first we look at, of the two, the first one to release was Deep Impact. It was released in May the 8th, 1998. It was released, it was 2 hours long, rated PG-13, budget unknown, unfortunately. With that said, domestic box office, and keep in mind all this box's info comes from Box Office Mojo. Wikipedia says completely other stuff, but I only use actual solid info, so I don't go Wikipedia for any of my info when it comes down to it. Everything is from Box Office Mojo, and it doesn't really show, unfortunately, box office numbers for international, unfortunately, so all I have is domestic numbers, which is it made $140,694,752. With that said, now we go on to Armageddon, which was released on July the 1st, 1998. Of course, it would end up being 2 hours and 31 minutes long, so a half an hour longer. Budget would be $140 million, so it was a pretty massive budget. Domestically, it shows it made $201,578,182 domestic, which made up 36.4%. Global box office, it shows $553,709,788, and its total worldwide gross. With that said, next on to, of course, Rotten Tomatoes. Critic score for Deep Impact was 45%, while audience score was 43%. It was pretty even. Then looking at Armageddon, critic score was 38%, so actually Deep Impact did better among the critics than the normal audiences. Regular audiences, on the other hand, gave on Rotten Tomatoes Armageddon a 73%, so a 30% higher score than Deep Impact. Now, with that said, looking on to Metacritic, it was 40% among critics for Deep Impact and a 5.7 out of 10 among audiences. Now, on Armageddon's side, it had a 42% Metacritic, so actually a little bit higher. And audience score was a 6.3 out of 10. IMDb scores, Deep Impact would end up with a 6.2 out of 10, while Armageddon would get a 6.7 out of 10. Now, of the two films, I will say quickly before I give my own personal opinion on both films, I think the big reason as to why more people preferred Armageddon was because you had bigger names attached really overall to the film. Not as big names, no major names really in Deep Impact. You had some mid-range names of that time period, but no really huge name box office draws, which is one of the reasons Deep Impact did not do quite as well. Though I actually think in the CGI department, I think the CGI was actually pretty solid for the time. I think was used a little bit better, wasn't completely as over the top. Plus the overall, like, ending and everything for both films were very different. One went for more of a traditional, like, spectacular, like, I guess you could say, more happy ending approach, sort of, while the ending in Deep Impact, not really a happy ending. But with that said, reason why more people tend to prefer Deep Impact, I think, was because of the big names specifically attached to the film. That being, of course, obviously Bruce Willis, which was at his height in popularity at the end of the 90s, because he was just coming off of films such as Fifth Element, one of probably my personal favorite Bruce Willis film of all time. But with that said, you have to understand specifically, also, a lot of people know Armageddon for the soundtrack, for specifically a Aerosmith song, which would become known and would be best well known signature from that movie, and I Don't Want to Miss a Thing. Becoming one of their best well known songs throughout the years. Really, there's no memorable songs on Deep Impact, but now to give my quick opinion on both films before I cut this versus video. Personally, I like Armageddon or Deep Impact a little bit more from a storytelling perspective. I like some of the characters better. Overall, I felt they were a little bit more in reality domain, and I felt in general Deep Impact felt more possible that it could happen in reality versus Armageddon, which felt way too over the top cheese fest and way too much explosions. Sort of like Michael Bay, I guess you could say, in a way. But for me, Deep Impact is the one I remember more fondly. Looking back, and to be fair, I never cared much for the Aerosmith song as well. Don't kill me. But when it comes down to it, overall, if I was to grade both films, what would I give them personally? I'd probably give Armageddon probably a C minus personally. I'd give Deep Impact maybe a B minus. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not the biggest fan of Deep Impact, but I still enjoy it more. When I look back nostalgically, I tend to look back more favorably towards Deep Impact than I did over the other film. Maybe it's a couple of different things, and in fact, I for sometimes tend to prefer movies less people like for some reason. Not sure why, and I tend to like movies a lot of people don't like, and then I tend to not like a lot of popular stuff as well. That's just how it is when it comes to personal opinion and personal preference. With that said, I'm working on a new versus. I'm gonna offer a suggestion, leave a comment, tell me what your thoughts are on a future versus idea taking place in the 80s, a battle between two animated mouse films. It is Disney versus Don Bluth. It is, of course, The Great Mouse Detective versus, of course, An American Tale. And in that, of course, you'll find out which one has more nostalgia for me. But with that said, that is it for this edition of Box Office and Box Office Versus. Tell me what you think. Also, do you prefer a little bit more dim lighting like I'm testing this time, or stick with the more bright in the future? But with that said, I'll see y'all next time. Stay safe. Hopefully enjoy the music choice today. But stay safe, and I'll see you next time here on the Goku Report. Stay safe, everyone.